Hello and welcome to SoVT Book Talk. I'm your host, Karen Simpson McVicker, and I'm super excited to be back in the studio this month. I had the opportunity to interview Meg Waite-Clayton at Southern Vermont Art Center last month, which was great. And if you haven't had a chance to see that interview, you can find it either on the GNAT-TV website or on our SoVT Book Talk YouTube channel, which I just found out we had. But I'm really excited to be back here today with Paige Vignola. Hi, Paige.
Hi, I'm happy to be back.
I know, it's great to see you. And I'm also very excited about our guest today. Sarah Strohmeyer is the award-winning, nationally best-selling author of 18 novels for adults and young adults, including the Bubble Jablonski mystery series and the Cinderella Pact, which was made into a Lifetime movie, Lying to Be Perfect. I first met Sarah at the Northshire Bookstore's Booktopia event a few years ago when she was touring with her novel, We Love to Entertain. A former newspaper reporter, her writing has appeared in numerous publications, including Cleveland's Plain Dealer, the Boston Globe, and she lives with her family outside Montpelier, Vermont. Today, she is with us to discuss her latest novel, A Mother Always Knows, which is an electrifying novel about psychological suspense that explores the way our past shape our future. So welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited to have you here. So I loved the book. I write heartwarming historical fiction. So whenever I venture into the world of psychological thrillers, I'm sometimes a little worried that it might be too much for me, but I have to say, your books are just the right amount of creepy for me.
It might not be creepy enough for some people.
I know, but I love them. So I'm just curious, what led you to dive into this world of cults in Vermont? There had to be
I am so
instigating
excited
factor.
you asked me that question. First, let me just say, when we met at Northshire, that's when I was drafting A Mother Always Knows. And so it is set in this area, as you may have figured out, because you are in the Bennington Triangle, Joe Citro's name for this area where spooky things happen. And cults are all over Vermont. And there's a cult right down here in Manchester, and there's a cult at Derby Line, and there's been a cult in Island Pond. But the way I got the idea is that when I was working as a town clerk in the town of Middlesex, I got a call from my neighboring town clerk, Katie Winklejohn in Worcester, and she was looking for some information so she could put together a death certificate for a man named Macbeth. And it turns out that unbeknownst to me, and actually unbeknownst to Katie, there was a Druid cult, still is, at the top of the mountain that separates our towns. And what happened to poor Mr. Macbeth is that he was hosting people for an autumn equinox festival when he collapsed and died of a massive heart attack. Whereupon the people who attended the festival decided to make him part of the ceremony.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a very warm fall weekend. And so as Mr. Macbeth began to expand, Katie was called back up to the area of the Druid area at the top of the mountain. And she had to settle a fight because some people wanted to burn him right away and other people wanted to stab him and release the gas and then set him on fire. And she said, no, none of this. And so that is where I got the idea for my character, whose last name is Macbeth. And also for the idea of kind of clusters of people doing their own thing in the woods of Vermont.
Wow.
Yeah, all of my Shakespeare jokes went right out the window. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It really is incredible.
Well, I know. So for people in our viewing area who live down here, they will love your fictitious town of Dutton,
That
Vermont.
has absolutely nothing to do with Dorset.
Or Dutton Farms. And the fact that Northshire Bookstore has a little cameo,
that's right,
mention in there. But I know sometimes when we're writing, it does make sense to, have an authentic setting, but a fictitious town.
Right.
So tell me, what real towns did you pull from while you were creating Dutton?
Well, it's really interesting. Every time I drive through this area now, these parts, like the library in Manchester, is so in my brain because it's a scene in the book.
Rep in the library.
It's a great library.
It is a great
You're
library.
very lucky to have a great library.
I'm highly biased, but it is a great library.
And, so that is in this book. And it's just, it lives in your brain for so long that you feel as though it's like a weird sense of deja vu. And I'm sure you probably appreciate that as someone who writes historical stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's where I drew from. I mean, the premise of A Mother Always Knows is that there is a mother who has joined a cult that's kind of set in the Green Mountain National Forest. It's a dowsing cult, a spiritual dowsing cult. So not just for water, but to tap into the universal energy. And our character, Stella O'Neill, is only 10 years old when she's fleeing with her mother in the woods at night, when she sees her mother be murdered in front of her, falling headfirst into a stream. Stella escapes and lives a quiet life as a librarian for 20 years, and while her mother's killer is still at large, until she's outed on social media, whereupon she realizes that her life is now in danger, the killer knows who she is, where she is, and so she returns to the cult to get to the bottom of what actually happened to her mother and to find her mother's killer before her mother's killer finds her.
Mm-hmm. Keeps you turning the pages, let me tell you. So, since you bring that up, I thought it was interesting that both We Love to Entertain and A Mother Always Knows, like you really dive into kind of mother-daughter relationships. It's very different in the books, but it's there.
Yeah.
It's very clear in both of them, sort of themes of unconditional love, themes of protection, themes of sort of these unspoken regrets.
Right.
Is that something you set out to do?
I don't know. I have a lot of mother-daughter relationships throughout all my books. So Do I Know You, which is about a super recognizer, there's a mother element there as well. With Bubbles Yablonsky mystery series, Bubbles has to deal with her mother constantly. I don't know. Maybe it's because I lost my mother at a young age or because I am a mother. I don't know. It's always a complicated, rich relationship that's fun to explore. And in A Mother Always Knows, here's a otherwise sensible woman. Why has she joined this cult? Why has she left her husband and a nice life in Massachusetts to come in and join this cult? Mother always knows, but, mothers are also human. We have our own desires, whims, and frailties.
Yeah. So I feel like there's a couple of different twists in the book. We won't do any spoilers, obviously. When you started writing the book, did you have the plot? Did you already know the end? Did you know who done it? Or did this develop over the course of writing the book?
In that particular book, no. I wrote a whole draft and realized it didn't work. And so I changed and I rewrote another character and had it done. Mostly I try to, I usually have the ending first in my brain. So and then I can shape things. I can shape the action toward that ending. What happens, and I think every writer can relate to that, is once you start writing these characters, their own quirks, deficiencies, drives, ambitions, addictions come out. And you realize, wait a minute, that person who I have in mind would never do what I want them to do. But that person might. And so that's the part of drafting that's kind of magical. It's that the characters come out and they start speaking differently and they start doing things differently. And that's really key when you're writing a book. You have to let them, you just have to rewrite them.
I absolutely love that. I love that the characters are actually the ones who are telling you what the story is going to be.
What they would do and wouldn't do.
Well, people are, whether they drive the way they do, whether they argue, whether what they eat, what they like. Eventually, as you define these characters, you realize that they are individuals. They're not cookie cutter characters, which is why AI will never succeed.
Agreed.
I guess I just love the idea that the character can still surprise you, right? The character surprises the creator, and that's just magical.
What's also really cool is, and I have been doing this for over 2 decades, so I've talked to a lot of other writers about this phenomenon where you will put certain details in a book as you're drafting. And they might be throwaway details. Somebody walked across a bridge. Somebody did something else. And then when you're through that draft, you realize, oh, wait a minute. Now I know why they got the dog. Now I know why they went across the bridge. And you go back and you use that. And that to me is fascinating. It's almost as though your subconscious is just working on another level. In fact, a lot of times when I'm having plot problems, I will just say, you know what? Figure this out for me, subconscious. And it won't happen in 24 hours, but it will happen within 72 hours. Something will click. It just does. It's an amazing process.
So talking about your process, I mean, obviously in a book like this with your plots, there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of subplots, and that's what makes it so fun as the mystery winds up and then unravels. Oh no, it's so much fun. How long does it take? I mean, you were saying when I met you, you were already working on this book.
Right. Well, it took me a lot longer when I had a full-time job. So I just recently left my job as town clerk after 12 years, and I left in March. And I supposedly retired. My husband keeps saying that, but I've got another book contract. You know, he keeps doing this. He would even when I left my job as a newspaper reporter, he said, Sarah left her job. I didn't. I had a book contract, you know. That's a lot of work. So this has been a luxury to get back to writing every day without another job. I don't have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't have to stay at work, you know, until 9 o'clock at night, you know, working these chapters. I get the luxury of writing it during the day. And for the first time in my life, I don't have small children around me, which is what I had before. I mean, I hope it's not going to take as long as that one did, which I think was about 16 months or so. This one that I'm writing now, it's not due till January, and I think I'm going to send it a draft in November. This is my next book.
When you say 16 months, do you mean 16 months of creating the draft, or like the entire process of rewriting?
16 months until I turn it into my publisher and editor, because that is a whole other thing. But the fortunate thing about A Mother Always Knows is that my editor, whom I absolutely loved, before she left and moved to another publisher, she called me up and we went over it last March. And that was really very, very helpful. I have another editor who I love as well, but it was really nice to have that halfway through point, because otherwise I would have wasted a lot of months doing stuff that wasn't necessary. Would have ended up on the cutting room floor.
Yeah. And do you enjoy that? Do you enjoy that process of editing? And like you said, I had to go back and rewrite it.
I think I'm like a lot of writers in that the first draft is just crap. The second draft is where it starts to get good. The third draft is wonderful. The polishing is great. Then you send it into your editor, and then the editor comes back with notes. And what I've found is that it's much more helpful to keep in touch with the editor. I really like those conversations with the editor. I think editors are really, really necessary, because you can bounce it off your friends, you can bounce it off other people, but editors, that's their goal, that's their job, and they are talented, and that's why they're there, and they are so helpful. I like that. Sometimes you get down, by the time you get past all those drafts and you're at the end, you're just done. Like, I don't care what Stella does, forget it, you know, have her go eat a sandwich and go home and go to bed, you know, you're done. Sorry.
Yeah,
it is.
You get to that point, you just want it to be done.
Then you're done,
Wow.
Which is probably a bad point to be. I probably should never say that.
That's okay. Is there a way to tell us a little bit about what you're working on in the next book?
Yes, my next book is called Worst Wife Ever, Worst Period, Wife Period, Ever Period. And it is set in a traditional, intentional community in the heart of my home state of Pennsylvania. And recently I went back there to do some book touring and also do some research, and I'm right on the money. That's exactly where that community should be sent. And this is one of those phenomenons where, like Tom Wolfe wrote about it when he was writing about Bonfire of the Vanities, where he had a book in mind and he had plots and characters in mind, but then the news kept happening. And so by the time the book was published, everyone thought that he had done almost a fictionalized version of a true crime. And this is what I'm finding with my book. This is not necessarily a trad wife book. There are trad wives in it, but there are these gated, intentional communities popping up all over the place. And some of them come from certain political biases. Some of them they're agri-communities. Some are very wealthy. Some are very militarized, but they're all over the place. And I have the feeling we're going to see a lot more of these.
Wow. Well, we will definitely be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
But until then, very exciting. And I hear They've already sold out of copies at Northshire, have more coming in,
Well,
which is
I think
super
that was like
exciting.
2 weeks ago. But yes,
great.
it's made all the bestseller lists in Vermont at least. So there
That's
you go.
awesome. Hey,
It's a supportive state.
Yeah.
it is. Well, thanks so much for being with us, Sarah.
Well,
and I
thanks.
understand you're going to stick around and do Last Now Next.
I would love to do
Okay,
that.
awesome.
Oh, fabulous.
All right, Paige, you want to take us out? This is the time when we talk about the book we last read, what we're reading now, what we're thinking we're going to read next, and I'll let you take us out.
Sure. So my last book is Foster by Claire Keegan. Now, this was, I know people know Claire Keegan for sure. This was a complete guess on my part. My daughter and I were just wandering through a bookstore in Dublin, picked it up and was like, well, this looks interesting, and started flipping through it. It is perhaps one of the most powerful, I guess we'll call it a novella. I mean, it kind of has the vibe of a short story because, I mean, it's only about 80-something pages and the typeset is very large. So, I mean, it has a more of a short story kind of feel to it. Unbelievably powerful story of a young girl in a rural, poor family, agricultural family in Ireland, ends up being taken in as a foster by relatives. And it's emotionally intense, but it's told through the eyes of a young child. So it's really highly evocative because you don't really know what's happening because she doesn't really know what's happening.
Cool.
But all the
That's
clues
cool.
that get dropped along the way, they're just, they're heartbreaking, heart-wrenching of what this child is going through and what both families, the family that, her original family and then the foster family are going through. Could not recommend it more to anybody. Highly suggest it. Switching gears tremendously, as you may or may not know, I am a huge history geek, specifically medieval history.
Cool.
I think I know, Paige.
You might know, yeah. Medieval British history is, that's sort of like my comfort blanket. And as weird as it is to say, the 14th century, where all the horrible things happen and everybody dies and there's wars all over. I love the 14th century. So this is a new book by Helen Carr, who is a phenomenal historian, British historian. It's called The Sceptred Isle, and it basically starts with 1301 and then goes to the end of the 14th century.
I want your book list because me too.
Oh,
That's my
incredible. And she writes so well. It's not dry history, right?
Right.
I mean, like, it has a narrative quality to it, but incredibly well researched. She also has a podcast, and I kind of geek out on that. So, there's a lot going on. Highly recommended. New history of the 14th century, The Sceptred Isle. Love, love, love. And I'm one of those weird people who really enjoys reading about the plague. So, there you have it. So my next book is one that I have been instructed by my daughter and my daughter's best friend that I absolutely have to read. I'm not going to lie, I'm not looking forward to it. I will read it, A Little Life. Everybody I know who has read it says it's phenomenal, but I also feel like this is a serious emotional investment, and I just don't know that I have it in me right now. Right now I've been reading more for escapism, I suppose, and so I look for things that are, so the plague maybe the 14th century isn't escapism for most people, but for me,
love it, yeah.
But
It's not your plague.
It's not
your
plague,
It's
right?
escapism.
Yeah, absolutely. But so this one is my next read. I am almost dreading it, but I'm also really looking forward to it because, again, I've been told that it's
Everybody
just
says it's,
once you start reading it, it's impossible to put down, even though you may really want to. So that's my next.
I can't wait to hear how that goes. And what are you reading, Sarah?
Okay, so I just finished Everyone is Lying to You. This is written by Joe Piazza. It is a trad wife mystery, and I normally don't read in the genre in which I'm writing, but in this case, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't piggybacking. And I was relieved to see that Joe did a really fun mystery about Instagram trad wives. That's not where I'm going with my next book. It's insightful, it's funny, it's fast-paced. I think anybody who's on Instagram watching trad wives would love it. To switch, this is a horror novel that has been recommended to me for years. I just started it, as you can see, the other night. It's called The Hunger, and it is about the Donner Party. Ooh. Donner Party of 12. The writing is excellent, and this is Alma Katsu. I don't know her, but she's, I think, very highly regarded. She's got great blurbs. So what I've started so far is fantastic. I am doing an event at the Grafton Inn through Bridgeside Books with Emily Wraith. This is romance. This is not something I normally read, but we're doing this on the September 12th to the 14th. I think it's all sold out. There might be a couple of rooms. And so I'm going to read this because it's so much fun to meet the author after you read them. No matter, it's just really, it's just cool.
It is cool.
So, so
You
that's
have a
what
little experience.
I have a little experience with that. I love that.
so that's what we're,
That's
that's what I'm
awesome.
doing.
Awesome. Well, I'm back in research mode for the third novel, and had an opportunity. So I'm working, we have a local documentary filmmaker guy, Bill Mensch, who's doing a new film about a gift that the Choctaw Nation, the Native American tribe, made to the Irish in 1847.
That's right. There's this relationship.
There's this incredible relationship between the Choctaw and the Irish. And so I'm working with Bill on the film, which I'm really
Cool.
excited. I'm a producer and a scriptwriter on a documentary. Never
Good
thought I
for
would
you.
do that. Pretty
That's
excited.
fun.
So I'm heading over to Ireland really soon. And so I had already created a character. I'd already started this third novel. It's a third Henderson House novel. But I had created an Irish young woman who had been, in my mind, had lived in a tenement in Dublin in the 30s and came over, in like 38, and now is working as a maid in Spring Lake, New Jersey. So I'd already created Nora as a side character. And now I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm going to Dublin. And I really liked her. So I decided I want her to have her own POV in the next novel. So I'm kind of back in research mode. So I read this memoir, A Dublin Girl, by Elaine Crowley. And it's pretty straightforward about growing up in a tenement house in the 30s. I mean, one of the interesting things about the Dublin tenements is they actually continued into the 60s and early 70s. And so I've watched some documentaries on them now. I mean, it's just amazing. We think about tenement housing ending, sort of in the 1890s or the early 1900s, but they really did continue in Dublin. So I just read this, but at the same time, so I kind of have like research and then fun, I read this wonderful historical fiction called The Rhino Keeper by Gillian Forsberg. And this is an untold story of Clara, the rhinoceros, who was brought over from India to Holland in the 1740s, toured Europe. People, like crowds adored her, royalty adored her. And there was sort of a plot by a priest that thought she was evil to like end her. So it's dual timeline. So you have this story, the incredible research about Clara, and then you have in the present day timeline a grad student who sort of uncovers her mystery. So I really enjoyed it. Very, very different, great research. So that was really fun. And then next up, I'm going to go back into the tenements, and I'm going to be. This looks like a really great book because it's an oral history of the Dublin tenements. So it's all interviews.
Wow.
So I'm really excited about
Good
that.
for whoever took that oral history, right?
I know, it's because that's really what you want.
Yeah.
That's when you get it. And so for fun on my phone, because I do often read ebooks on my phone, I'm reading Matchmaking for Beginners by Maggie Dawson. I love Maggie Dawson and her romances. She always has a little bit of something kind of magical where people have like extrasensory perception or something, something cool is going on. And so I just started that. And
Gotta love magical realism.
I do love it. So I've got that going as something fun. So trying to keep it all, because this stuff is heavy.
Right.
I
also did finish Atmosphere. Have you guys read that? It's really good.
Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing too. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for being here and for sticking around, and keep
Thanks
us
for having
posted
me.
on the next book. We'd love to have you back.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Paige, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's happening at the Manchester Community Library this month?
Okay, September is going to be big for a bunch of reasons. I'm really excited about this. I'm going to kind of like slow release some information. So as I'm sure you are aware, we have a creativity cave that runs after school on Wednesday afternoons. And obviously it gets put on hiatus in the summertime because it's an after school program. And well, when there's no school, it's hard to do after school. But Creativity Cave is back starting in September. And we're going to have Lauren Cabas come in and do macrame. And everybody loves Lauren and macrame. And then Trish Weil is coming in and everybody loves Trish. And then we also have Lee Williams, who's a local sculptor. He's coming in order to be able to do all kinds of things. So we'll have macrame, paracord people, paper mosaics, crazy monsters, all kinds of fun stuff. Another one that is happening, a little bit of a shift from something that we've had for a while, a bilingual story time. So it's both English and Spanish. It has been held on weekday mornings, but we're going to move it to Saturday mornings, right? So hopefully more people will be able to come. So on Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock, explore colors, numbers, shapes, and more in Spanish and in English with Karen. So each session is singing, dancing, and reading a story in both languages. So that's for, anybody who is interested in getting their little ones involved in multiple languages. And then have you ever been to the Grafton Fairy House Festival?
No.
Okay.
I've heard of it, though.
You may be gone by the time it happens, but the Grafton Fairy House Festival is absolutely magical. You go wander through the woods, and everybody has
fairy houses.
the little fairy houses all set up, and it's a fundraiser for the Nature Museum. So I mean, it's a good cause all the way around. And this year, MCL is going to have an entry in the Fairy House Festival, and so we're setting up 2 separate Saturdays. It's going to be September 13th and September 20th. We have all of the materials. And we're asking people to come in and contribute to a community fairy house situation that we will bring up to Grafton and enter in. Again, it's a fundraiser for the Nature Museum, so you don't need to bring any supplies. You just need to bring creativity and we'll say love of the little folk, right? Another thing that we're switching around a little bit this month is we've been partnering with Merck Forest and Farmland Center for quite a while, and we do what we call Merck Second Saturdays. And those Second Saturday events are nature education events through Merck Forest. But they've been doing them in the afternoons, and sometimes the afternoon on a Saturday is a little tough, so we're moving it to 11 a.m. And so now, starting this month in September on the 13th at 11 a.m., fall is almost here, and forest animals are getting ready for winter. So join the games and activities to learn which animals hibernate, how they prepare for long slumber, and find out the different types of hibernation. And the Merck educators are absolutely phenomenal. So, we also have the return of Music Garden. So this was a program that we had been running on Monday mornings with a wonderful musical educator. She focuses on toddler to preschool kind of age group. And it is just an incredible experience where it's sort of like pre-literacy, right? I mean, kids learn how to keep time. They learn gross motor skills, fine motor skills. They're singing and dancing. There's a whole bunch of, and so a new series is starting September 15th at 10 o'clock. It's a 10-week session. You don't have to come to all of them, but I definitely recommend that you do just because it's a curriculum, and so it builds. We have a continuation of our Vermont 250th anniversary commemorations, and I'm really excited about this one. This is called Plunder and Trophies After the Battle of Bennington. So again, a Vermont 250th program, but this is in partnership with the Manchester Historical Society, which I absolutely love. And this talk will explore an often overlooked topic: what happened to the items recovered on a Revolutionary War battlefield, in this case at Bennington. So during the Revolutionary War, both sides routinely sold items recovered from the battlefield and divided the proceeds among soldiers who had participated in the action. The sale of this plunder provided another incentive for soldiers to fight beyond the loyalty to their cause. So this presentation is going to discuss the collection, sale, and distribution of plunder, mainly focusing on the American side. It draws upon a wide range of primary sources, including pension records, diaries, and papers of the different officers. And this is all going to be done by Professor Michael Gabriel, and he has 5 books of American Revolutionary War. He's been teaching American history for over 30 years. Very excited to have him here. It's going to be an incredibly interesting talk.
I mean, did you know about that?
Well, I mean, plunder is always...
Plunder is plunder, but in the Revolutionary War?
Well, I mean, that's not my continent, not my century.
Oh, so, right, I forgot. Sorry.
But absolutely, yeah,
past the 14th century, my bad.
Well, but I mean, throughout history, soldiers have raided the bodies of the deceased in order to be able to collect goods, and that's part of what drives them to
I just never thought about it during the Revolutionary War. That'll be fascinating.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I'm really looking forward to that talk. And then last but not least, and this is something I am super excited about and incredibly proud to announce. So the Manchester Community Library has been awarded a grant from the National Endowment of the Arts. And we are the proud recipient of the Arts Midwest and the NEA Big Read. Right?
Oh, wow.
Which means we are going to help try and bring the community together around the shared activity of reading and discussing the same book. We partnered with Merck Forest, again, because we love Merck and the educators at Merck are just incredible. And our programs are going to be around the book Lab Girl.
Okay.
which is a memoir by geobiologist Hope Yaron, and it's a blending of her personal story with her love of science, right? So it's her career as a researcher, and she ties it in almost allegorically with like the life of plants and trees. So the book explores all kinds of themes: curiosity, the challenges of being a woman in science, resilience, the bonds of friendship. Incredible. It's an amazing story. But the kickoff event for this NEA Big Read is going to be on Saturday, September 20th, and it is taking place up at Merck Forest and Farmland Center in Rupert, and it is part of their Harvest Festival.
Great.
So at this event, that is going to be the wonderful joy that is always the Merck, Harvest Festival. The library is going to be distributing free copies of not only Hope Yaron's book, but also we have 3 companion titles. We've got a picture book, we've got a middle reader book, we've got a YA book. And we're going to have programming from starting September 20th all the way through the beginning of May. That's all going to be tied into this grant. So there are going to be film screenings, there are going to be nature walks, there's going to be talks by Vermont forestry specialists. We're going to do writing workshops. We're going to kind of go over the top. But I'm incredibly proud that we've gotten this grant and that we're able to partner with Merck.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I lived in a town that did a town read once, and it was incredible how it just brought different people together. You'd be waiting in line at the dry cleaner. You could just strike up a conversation about the book. It's really an incredible community experience.
It's
so
wonderful, yeah.
Super excited that's happening here.
Building connections, that's what it's all about.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's super exciting. And I have some events that will be happening at Northshire Bookstore in Manchester. They will be doing story time every Friday in September at 10:30 a.m. with the Northshire booksellers. Friday, September 5th at 6 p.m., John Seabrook will be there talking about The Spinach King. One of the New Yorker's most acclaimed storytellers will visit our Manchester store to discuss his latest book, a fascinating saga of his own family's history that was listed as a New York Times Book Review Editor's Choice. So that's on September 5th. On Saturday, September 13th, to the 14th will be their Reader Rewards Members Sale. So if you are a member of Northshire's Readers Reward Program, you get 20% off that weekend, which is really big. And if you're not a member, you can show up and sign up and still get it. So that's a really great weekend to stock up for some fall and winter reading. And then, if I can get to my page, there it is. On Wednesday, the 17th, from 5:30 to 7, Will Patton will be discussing Rescuing Capitalism, Vermont Shows Away. And this is with the Manchester Business Association and the Southwestern Vermont Chamber of Commerce. So that's going to be a really, really great program. Saturday, September 20th at 6 p.m., we have Tim Weiner talking about The Mission, the CIA in the 21st Century. And he is a Pulitzer Prize-winning author. He'll be there to discuss. This is the successor to Legacy of Ashes, which was his National Book Award-winning classic about the CIA's first 60 years. And then on Sunday, September 21st at 2 p.m., Cy Montgomery and Matt Patterson will be talking about The True and Lucky Life of a Turtle. Again, National Book Awards finalists, talking about a New York Times bestseller, Cy Montgomery, and acclaimed illustrator Matt Patterson will join us to talk about the true story of a snapping turtle's extraordinary journey and the amazing conservationists who helped give him a second chance. And finally, on Saturday, September 27th at 6 p.m., Sarma Melgalis will be here talking about The Girl with the Duck Tattoo. This is her memoir. It's a raw, unflinching narrative of how one smart, driven woman went from building a dream to being ensnared of a cult of one. And it's a wild ride through delusion, deceit, and a cautionary tale of idealism weaponized, and a tribute to the dog who helped bring her back to herself. So a lot happening.
A lot going on.
A lot happening in this area. And thanks for being here today. I will be on hiatus for a little while, and I think Amber Roberts of GNAT-TV is going to be sitting here with you over the next few months while I'm traveling. But until then, thanks for tuning in, and happy reading.